All right, you guys know that this channel is often quite positive, right? I do not jump on here and just talk trash about players just to talk trash about them. I don't talk trash about the coaching just to talk trash about them. I don't talk about the front office in a negative way when I think it's not, merited, right? I don't come on here and just perform, right? Everything is a performance to some degree, right? Obviously, when you're live streaming and all that, you have a channel, but for the most part, I try my best to be as close to authentic on how I feel about things as possible. I'm not going to go on here and say this person should be fired, this person should be traded all the time. Like, I just don't do that, right? So when I get negative on some things that I see, I hope that you guys can take that as authenticity, and maybe it is something we should be concerned about, okay? So this game in particular, I thought none of this was on the players. And if anybody comes out of this game and they say this player should have played harder, this player should have did this player should have did that, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong or anything, but I am going to say I don't think that this game is on the players. It's actually been a continuous theme that I've seen with this team, and they're just continuing it, and I don't like it. It can change pretty soon. It can change tomorrow, right? But like right now, I don't like this. Okay, let me just go into what I don't like. So the Spurs were in a very tough match against the Magic. Just like the last game against the Hornets, we came out of it like, hey, we should have won that game, right? It just is what it is. But a couple things that I've seen that I really don't like, and I actually understand, or at least I think I understand why Miss Johnson does this. But I don't like lineups as if we're already in the playoffs. And I also don't like not trusting young guys. Those are the two things I don't like right now. What do I mean by that? So one thing that's happened over time and time again is that we're not utilizing or fully utilizing our roster, right? Now, obviously that bit us in the butt against the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that's all about attrition. Like, that's their entire motto, is that they're just going to try to beat you down with the plethora of depth that they have, right? And they're not going to overplay anybody, and they just break you down. They're a super fast team. They break you down. And obviously that was a matchup nightmare for us all the time, like all the times we played them, and we didn't make any adjustments when it came to that. But I was hoping that we would at least learn a lesson from that, and that lesson is you need to play more players and you need to stretch it out a little bit more. But no, we didn't do that. I'm not bought into the fact that Malachi and Blake Wesley can give you no minutes. I'm not bought into the fact or the idea that these two cannot contribute to the team whatsoever. I don't like that. I don't think that's true. Now, do I think that there's star talent in them? No. But I thought, at least this season and going forward, because, obviously we want to make the playoffs. I understand that. But at the same time, I thought that the whole point of having guys like these two is for them not to rot on the bench. You could save that for older veterans that you don't really need to be your third stringers. But Malachi and Blake Wesley, you can definitely get somewhat utility out of them. Even if it's just a few minutes and it's not garbage time, just a few minutes, just to give some of these other guys a little bit more rest, right? But that has not been the case, man. That has not been the case. So that's one thing, but that's like one of the smaller things on the end. I think that's one of those things where most fans don't agree with that, right? He said, I don't even know what your name is. It's just a bunch of asterisks. I've been being about this, the B word, about this for years. We haven't played to our potential for a while now because effing tanking. Hope y'all finally recognize. No, the tanking was fine. I was okay with the tanking. They got his Wemby, right? I'm okay with the tanking. But this right here, and I know what you're saying, but Popovich did utilize Blake and Malachi. Popovich did have quite a few lineups where, you can attack a team in different angles. I'm just looking for a little bit more creativity. So that's number one, all right? But that's on the smaller end of things. I don't think a lot of people will agree with that. That's fine. But I think the one thing that we all will agree with is the lineups just as a whole, when we do just have these guys, we just keep these guys out there, the lineups are very questionable, to the point where I'm like, you are way too comfortable with your guys. Like I'm starting to get the vibe of these are your guys and you're rolling with them, right? You're rolling with them. I don't like that, and I think that is unnecessary. I think it's a little silly. And what do I mean by that? Well, guys, you have, look who's on the bench. You have Steph Castle on the bench, which is fine. That's okay. You know, last game he scored 33 points off the bench, whatever. You have Jeremy Sochan on the bench. I don't know if he's still in injury protocol or whatnot. Like, I don't know if he's still on minutes restriction. I have no idea. I don't think that they've been very clear about that. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong there. So I don't like that. But the main thing I really don't like is this. When you got De'Aaron Fox, in the first game that he can play, we elected to play him. I did not think that we would run a lineup with Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox on the court together. I don't understand why we're doing that. I don't get it. All you're doing is eating into each other's minutes. Chris Paul coming off the bench would actually give us way more depth. Chris Paul plays really well with Steph Castle. But this right here, I thought that our whole thing this season was defense. I thought that our whole thing this season was that's what the San Antonio Spurs are about, right? Like, that's our identity, is we're going to lean on that defense. It's not just me saying it. Wemby has said it. Sochan seems to feel that way. The coaching staff has said it. I thought that that's what it is. This right here, starting a lineup with Chris Paul, De'Aaron Fox, and Harrison Barnes, no disrespect. No disrespect to Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes by any stretch of the imagination. But this just yells safe to me. This just screams safe. Vic, you got to start him because he's Vic. Devin Vassell, pretty long tenured Spur, and we're accustomed to Keldon coming off the bench already. And then Chris Paul, De'Aaron Fox, and Harrison Barnes, well, they're vets. They have to play, right? Absolutely ridiculous. This makes no sense. Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox on the court starting together makes no sense whatsoever. Now, if Sochan is on injury, protocol or minutes restriction, okay, all right, fine. I'll accept it, I guess. But the fact that you want to play Chris Paul with Fox and you move Fox to shooting guard is just dumb to me. Fox is one of the best pick and roll ball handlers in the NBA. Victor Wembanyama, great pick and pop player. And Jeremy Sochan, we already seen it. He's third, which technically he's just tied with Jokic, but he's third in the NBA in pick and roll finishes. Why are we not just putting our strongest foot forward here? What are these lineups? Why are we doing this? This is the smallest lineup in the league. Is it literally? This game, this loss, is all coaching. I did not come out of this game and usually I can, right? Usually I can come out of the game and say, this player should have done this. This player should have did this. I didn't really like how this player played. It did not feel that way. This entire game was just, what are we doing? What are we doing here? What's going on? And I know that we're struggling with not having a backup center, right? So maybe that justifies it. Sochan, being off the bench. But another thing I didn't like, that lineup at the end of this game. Do you guys seriously think that Banchero would have got that easy of a shot if Sochan was on him? You can say what you want about Jeremy, right? Like, fine. I argue with people all the time, but let's get serious here. Jeremy Sochan not being in the game when we desperately need a good defensive possession and we can see Victor Wembanyama is gassed is completely inexcusable. I am sorry. Completely inexcusable. Barnes was having a good game. So be it. Whatever. I just don't understand Chris Paul being out there when you have De'Aaron Fox. Just run one or the other and finish off with Sochan. Fox ending the game makes sense. Everyone knows he's known as a clutch player. Maybe he gets going at the end of the fourth. Whatever. I am content with that. Sochan not being in the game, unless it is strictly minutes restriction, and even if that's the case, you need to manage these minutes a little bit better, because him not being in there really irritates me. I know, maybe people will say, well, Clan, he had 4 personal fouls. There is like 2 minutes left on the clock. I don't care. I don't care. This won't carry over into next game. Just like Mitch Johnson when it comes to the timeouts, and it seems like he never really wants to call a timeout. Same thing with this. Jeremy Sochan, let's say he does get 2 more. So? Just like it was a few games ago where Castle, they called a foul on him and he got fouled out. And I said, you should challenge that. And we didn't challenge it. Why didn't we challenge it? We only had a few minutes left. He was playing great. Why didn't we just challenge it? Screw it. A lot of it is just speaks to me that he's just, and this is not me saying Mitch needs to go. Okay. Let me get that straight. This is not me saying Mitch Johnson needs to be fired. This is the only thing I'm saying is he's probably just better as an assistant coach. No one's on that coaching staff is incompetent. No one on the coaching staff is bad. Everyone that works with Popovich, he gets the best of the best. Guys that he puts on his line, his soldiers, they're good. They know what they're doing, and they bring something to Popovich that he really enjoys and helps the team as a whole, right? So I'm not saying Mitch Johnson isn't a good coach, because if he's coaching with Popovich, he's a good coach. But being a head coach, this has been quite laughable. He just has his guys that keeps him comfortable, and I know that he said that the players will decide, what they want to do, what direction they go in, and that's great advice that he got from Pop. But I think he's taking it a step too far. This is too much. And this is, guys, I'm not even talking about like, who should be the next coach right now. I see some people saying like Coach Brown. Like, I'm not worried about that. I am not worried about that. I'm just talking about right now what we can do to improve. And I think a small step would be find a way to implement Wesley and Branham. And I think even that ideology in and of itself will give your team and give yourself a little bit more flexibility on what you want to do, a little bit more flexibility mentally. You can do that. Even though these games are close and we're barely winning them, dude, if you change up these lineups a little bit, if you make sure that you're not just bowing, I mean, I'm not saying that Chris Paul's demanding this or anything, but like bowing down to Chris Paul that he has to start or he has to screw Chris Paul. I'll say that about anybody. Screw Chris Paul, screw De'Aaron Fox, screw Victor Wembanyama, screw Harrison Barnes, screw Devin Vassell. Just play what's best for the team. And this is a terrible lineup. So over the course of the last couple games, here, let me see if I can bring this up. Let's just look at the last couple games, okay? Last couple games. There is one lineup, or a couple lineups, that have been detrimental for this team. And the fact that we're not picking up on this literally drives me crazy. So you can see Chris Paul, the lineup I just mentioned, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell, and Victor Wembanyama. Defensive rating, 131. Now, some people, you don't know defensive ratings or whatnot, okay? The higher this number is, the worse. You want this number as low as possible, okay? You want your defensive rating low, and it is 131. Offensive rating, 110. Net rating, -20. I think this is a good enough sample size of 3 games now, 34 minutes, that this is terrible. Why are we doing this? You don't get anything out of it. What the F, 131? Yes, you don't get anything out of this. There's no benefit in throwing De'Aaron Fox as shooting guard. There's no benefit. There's none. Because Chris Paul, he's not a bad defender, but he's not a really great one. Harrison Barnes, he's not a terrible defender. He's not really a great one. De'Aaron Fox, he's not a terrible defender, but he's not like an elite one. I would say he's a good defender, but he's not like an elite one. Devin Vassell, same thing. Devin Vassell, we know him as a 3-and-D. Not necessarily. Like, defensive wise, he's pretty good, right? He's pretty good, but he's better in the lanes. He's not good. No one starting here is a good one-on-one defender. De'Aaron Fox is the best defender one-on-one, I think, out of this group. Maybe you'll say Devin Vassell, whatever. Maybe we can debate about that. It doesn't matter. But, yeah, you just got Vic. And that's what you get. You got Vic on the court, and you have a defensive rating with a lineup of 131. And good sample size. This is like a minute of playing time. Like, this 34 minutes. Now, let's look at some that make a little bit more sense. Now, this one also doesn't make sense. You got Chris Paul. It's 11 minutes total. Chris Paul, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, Victor Wembanyama, Steph Castle. Now, I do like Steph Castle with Chris Paul. I don't like Chris Paul with Devin Vassell and Champagnie out there together. I don't like it. But our offensive rating is better. So it's like, okay, you get that benefit of the offensive rating. You get 130 offensive rating, 134.8 defense rating. Horrible here, but the net rating overall is negative 4.3. Now, guys, what do you see the difference between, this is also 11 minutes, okay? I'll leave it here. Well, actually, I'll leave it these two. What's the difference here? So everyone can sit here and say, like, I'm just, oh my God, man, all you do is talk about this guy. Oh, why do you like him so much? You don't know what you're talking about. What's up with this? You see what I'm seeing, right? You see what I'm seeing, right? This lineup right here doesn't even have Wemby in it. You have Sochan, someone who's very versatile as far as who he can defend, what he can guard, yada, yada, yada. You have an offensive rating of 125.9, so only 5 less than the last one we looked at, and a defensive rating of 88. Now, this is where we're cooking. Now, let me show you where we're cooking, okay? This is when we're cooking. You guys know I don't think Keldon Johnson's a good defender. I think he's actually a terrible defender. But this is where we're cooking. A lineup that has Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, Steph Castle, and Victor Wembanyama has an offensive rating of 100. Not the best, right? I know a lot of people say we need more shooting. Not the best, man. You know, maybe we can figure something out there. But defensive rating of 82. A defensive rating of 82. Now, I won't go further down than 8 minutes, you know, over the course of 3 games. I think we start getting a little silly, right? Like, we get a little silly if we go too far down. But I think that this is very telling. Sochan needs to be in these lineups, and you need to lean on your young talent a little bit more. It's okay to have a young Steph Castle and a young Wemby and a young Sochan finishing out these games. That's okay. At least we're losing with our best foot forward. What I would like to see, if I'm just being transparent here, I would like to see De'Aaron Fox start, Chris Paul get to the bench. I don't understand Chris Paul starting with Fox, and I promise you, I am not putting Fox on the bench. I'll tell you that right now. Start De'Aaron Fox, start Vassell, start Harrison Barnes at the 3, start Sochan, and start Victor Wembanyama. And if you don't want to start Harrison Barnes, start Steph Castle. Because Steph Castle is one of those where, you know, you kind of move them 1 to 3 if you want, right? You can just kind of do that. Just put your best foot forward here. I don't get this other than you getting comfortable and you're like, these are my guys. We're putting lineups out there like we're in the playoffs. You're not. We're nowhere near. We're still working towards that. I still personally think we can make the playoffs, but we're working towards that. You get what I'm saying? So that's what's been really bothering me, man. That's what's been irking me. And this has been a theme all season, by the way. This isn't just the last few games. It's just I was hoping this would change with the addition of Fox, but it's the same issue. I swear, guys, if the Spurs had like 2 more veteran point guards on this team, I wouldn't be surprised if we would run 4 point guards because they're vets and Victor Wembanyama is center. I would not be surprised if they did that. It's getting ridiculous at this point. You have this big of a sample size that has a net rating of -20. 34 minutes is enough. It's enough. Enough is enough. Knock it off. Let's stop doing that. Just run. So that's what I'm saying. You guys can say, Sochan, you just talk about Sochan. Sochan is that important. He's that good at defense. He's that good at defense. And I know people will say like, oh, well, we need shooting. We need shooting. We need shooting. Defense leads to easier shots. You exhaust a team on the defensive end. It makes it easier for you on the offensive end. You get a turnover on the defensive end. It makes it easier for you on the offensive end. You tire out teams with good defense. And this is no scrub lineup here, right? Like this is no scrub lineup here. I like this lineup. I mean, I don't think Keldon's like, great defender or anything, but if he's going, let's just say we get one of those KJ games, right? Those KJ games where he's getting going and he's playing pretty well offensively. This is nasty. This is lethal. You got Castle, you got Devin, you got Sochan, you got Wemby. You got Keldon surrounded around decent defenders. I would say Devin Vassell's a decent defender, and then you have 3 great defenders. Run it. Stop being afraid of it. Finish games with it. I mean, well, don't finish games like this. I think you would take Keldon out and finish the game with Fox. But finish a game with Fox, Vassell, Castle, Sochan, and Wemby. Do it. Sochan isn't that good on defense. Oh, my God, bro. I do not want to have to bring up Sochan's stats again. This gets exhausting doing this. It gets exhausting doing this. Gosh. What should I look up first? I don't even know how to do it when I'm on I don't know how to do it when I'm literally on Twitter on my computer. It's much easier to do it on my phone to find these tweets. I really need to just bookmark them. I don't know why I don't do that. Okay. Here you go. This is a good one. The top 10 in perimeter isolation defense. Do you see who's in the top 10? This is the entire NBA. Wait, hold on. Let me put things in context, right? How many players are in the NBA? Around 500 or 600 players. Okay, let's just say 600. Out of 600 players, our guy is top 10 in perimeter isolation defense. He is that good defensively. And if you think otherwise, it's just your own bias. I'm sorry. You're probably wondering, well, how do they come up with that? Here you go.
Taylor here from Basketball Index.
Actually, hold on. I want to hear it on my earphones. I know you guys could hear it, but it's not playing on my earphones. Hold on. There's no snare in my earphones, Dre. Okay.
Taylor here from Basketball Index. Until now, there's never been a good way to compare perimeter defenders. We could look at activity, but not effectiveness. Basketball Index has created 3 new perimeter defensive metrics that remedy that problem. They are on-ball defense, off-ball chaser defense, and ball handler screen defense. We know defensive field goal percentage becomes random once you're away from the basket. Instead of chasing that randomness, these metrics focus on how defenders look.
Easy, you're getting ridiculous. Perimeter isolation defense stats? Ha ha ha! Yeah, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Or shot quality, as well as suppress opponents' shot attempts. Our first metric is our on-ball defense, which evaluates these factors in one-on-one isolation. This is similar to how a cornerback in football is able to suppress a wide receiver's production. Next is our off-ball chaser defense. which evaluates these factors while chasing shooters like Steph Curry or Duncan Robinson around off-ball screens. And finally, we have our ball handler screen defense. These are the players trying to stick with the ball handler by navigating and fighting through screens in pick and roll and dribble handoffs.
Now, with all that put into one, he's top 10. I don't know what else I can tell you. I mean, I show you another lineup. I literally showed you this, and you can see that our defensive rating is quite great when Sochan's on the court. So that's not enough for you. Isolation defense, not enough for you. As far as tough as matchups, he's top 10 in that too. I'm trying to remember, because Castle's on there, and I know Sochan's on there. Like, we have 2 of the top 10 players in that. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Doesn't really matter. I could bring all this stuff up in a later date if you guys wanted me to. But yeah, as far as matchup difficulty, he's top 10 in that. Just know I'm not lying to you. He is top 10 in that. Pick and roll stats. Well, yeah, pick and roll stats as well. I thought we were talking about defense because somebody said he's not that great defensively. Yeah, it was this stat. But this is from 2023. But there's one that's recent, and he's top 10 in that. And these were rookies. This was rookies in matchup difficulty. But Sochan in the league, he's top 10. Him and Castle. I think Castle might be 10, and Sochan might be like 8 or 7 or something. I don't remember what it was. Gosh, I wish I could find that. Because me just typing it in here is not coming up. Let's see. Difficulty Jeremy Sochan. Oh, I found it. Here you go. Cool. So yeah. So I mean, dude, I don't know what you're going on about, but isolation defense, he's top 10. Top 10 in matchup difficulty, he's top 10 in that too. Sochan number 7, Steph Castle at 9. And we can watch a video on what that means as well if you want. Do they have post defense stats too? I'm sure they do. I haven't looked at his post defense stats. I mean, I know you're being condescending, but I haven't seen that. I hate that they have. I hate that he has to run center right now. But I think the Biombo edition will help. Anyways, Clan the Spurs fan, you gonna predict Castle gets Rookie of the Year? I don't think that's. I think that's the easiest take in the world. M-Easy is just a box score checker and that's it. Some people literally they already have a bias against a certain player, and then they just look at the stats after the game, right? And Sochan's one of those guys that no one's really going to give a lot of credit to until we're actually winning. Let's just be honest. Because he's not a stat sheet stuffer. He's just not like that. Now, when he goes to his natural position, things will look a little bit better, whatnot. But literally all his statistics have improved other than free throw shooting, but he doesn't get credit for it. So even if you are just a stat sheet watcher, you can go to stats here and you can see everything has improved, like everything, just statistic wise. Points slightly, around 11.6 to 12, but he's way more efficient. But you can see rebounds improved. He's at 7.5. Assists are less. Okay, I will say that, but the addition of having extra point guards definitely helps. That's what I said. Free throw percentage has decreased, but you can see 3-point percentages went up, and field goal percentage went up 10%. So he's scoring the same amount of points, but he's way more efficient in doing so. But hey, it doesn't really matter, right? He's not that good. Anyways, though that's my rant. And it's not me being a doomer and saying nothing can change and nothing will change. Probably should have said this earlier, but I do still believe in this team. I still think playoffs is a possibility. It's just this game genuinely upset me more than even the last ones, because it just feels like we're not learning our lesson here. And that lesson is be a little bit more creativity with your lineups. Don't put shackles on yourself just because you have vets. Don't fall into that. Don't fall into we have to start, we have to play, we have to finish with these vets. No, we don't. They're not equaling wins here. You don't have to do it. Fox undoubtedly should get the starting role easily, right? He's going to be a starter for many years. Like, he should get that start. Chris Paul shouldn't start right now. You have a better point guard in that position. He actually shouldn't start. He should come off the bench. Bring us some depth there. And yes, lean into our strengths here. Start Sochan. Start Castle. Why are we so worried about how many three-pointers we're going to get up when defense equals easy offense? Who cares? I agree with you on this, Clan. Thanks, G-Money. G-Money's a Kings fan, by the way, y'all. Yeah. Anyways, ending segment.